Hey everyone, it's Kiki! I know it's been a while since I last uploaded a sewing tutorial or costume making video. I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm super excited to share my latest completed cosplay costume, Lucy from Cyberpunk. Her sleek futurist design made this project both fun and challenging, and I can't wait to show you how I brought it to life. In this video, I will take you through the entire process, from analyzing the design and choosing fabrics to sewing, final assembly, and some useful tips along the way. And yes, I've also created a digital sewing pattern for this costume. It's available on my Etsy shop and pattern website, so you can make your own. You will find the links in the description below. Let's get started! Lucy's costume from Cyberpunk Edgerunners has a sleek, minimalistic yet bold design that fits the high-tech neon-lit world of Night City perfectly. It's a mix of sharp, structured elements and form-fitting details that make her look effortlessly cool. Her bodysuit is a muted purplish gray tone, which gives it a unique futuristic look. Instead of the typical black cyberpunk bodysuits, the fabric contours the body smoothly, emphasizing clean lines and simplicity rather than excessive details. But my favorite part of her outfit is the jacket. It's cropped, oversized at the neckline with structured shoulders, yet still keeps a fitted look. The silhouette makes Lucy stand out while keeping that high-tech aesthetic. One of the coolest details is how the jacket appears to float, almost as if it's barely attached to her body. To achieve this in reality life, I had to get creative with hidden attachments and lightweight materials, which I will explain in the next section. Also, in the anime, Lucy actually wears boots, but for my version, I decided to separate the design into leg warmers and shoes to achieve the same look, while keeping the costume practical and comfortable. Plus, this method lets me use the same PVC material across the bodysuit and boots, keeping the whole look cohesive and polished. For Lucy's bodysuit, many cosplayers use stretchy fabrics like lycra or jersey knit for comfort. Some use scuba knit or pea leather for a more structured look, and I wanted to focus on the structure, so I chose non-stretch PU leather for the bodysuit. The purple PU leather gives it a sleek, space-like shine, not a cheap plastic shine, but something that reflects light beautifully, almost like a spaceship surface, enhancing the cyberpunk feeling. One of the main reasons I chose non-stretch PU over lycra or spandex is that stretchy fabrics tends to create creases and excess drape, which takes away from the sharp, tight fitted look I want for Lucy. The PU keeps the bodysuit smooth and structured, ensuring a sculpture fit without wrinkles. For the jacket, I use a foam-backed white fabric for a structured yet soft look. The sleeves have a slightly puffy shape, which less fabric helps maintain. The black structural elements are also PU to keep the sleek contrast. For the boots, I use the same PU fabric to ensure consistency across the costume, instead of using separate leather boots that wouldn't match. You can purchase the pattern from my shops. Once payment is complete, the files will be automatically sent to you for download. Make sure to print the pattern at 100% scale or actual size on an A4 papers. You can use 75 to 110 paper weight depending on your preference. The first 6 pages contain essential details like size charts, sewing tools, and technical flat drawings to guide you. So first of all, you have to trim the blank edges on the sides of each page for easier alignment. Match the markings and tape the pages together. Cut the pattern pieces along the dash line. Verify that all pattern pieces match the layout shown on the page 2. Once printed and assembled, you are ready to start sewing. So first you start with the red PU. Most patterns for red PU are patch pieces without seam allowances. Instead of using pins, mark the patterns on the backside of the PU to avoid damage. Use a ruler to ensure accurate markings. For straight lines, mark points first, then connect them using a ruler. The neckband panel requires seam allowances because it will be attached to the purple bodysuit later. Carefully cut out the pieces, avoiding scratches on the PU surface. Since the PU I chose has a white woven backing, I paint the edges with red leather paint to improve the appearance. Set aside to dry. While waiting for the red patches to dry, cut out the purple PU pattern pieces. Use heat disappearing chalk to trace the patterns onto the PU. Keep the markings on the backside. Match notches and placement for the red patches. If working with corners or curves, mark the seam allowances directly onto the fabric for easier sewing. Cut out the pieces carefully to avoid damaging the PU surface. Mark placement for the red patches onto the purple PU. Use a water-based ink pen in a slightly darker shade than the PU, so it can be wiped off later. Double check the symmetry of the markings. Patches must be identical on both sides. For simple shapes, cut out the paper template's inner shape to help with easy tracing. Cut a dark gray PVC panel slightly larger than the red chest panel. Top stitch the red patch onto the gray panel with the 1mm gap. Iron press it flat, then trim the gray piece to match the pattern's shape. Wipe off pen markings with the wet tissue before they become permanent. Paint the edges with dark leather paint to conceal white fabric backing. Let dry. Top stitch the red trapezoid patches onto the marked placement on the purple PU. Ensure perfect alignment for symmetrical center back panels. Iron press flat, then double check the pattern pieces for accuracy. Set aside. Sew the center back seam together. Press open and top stitch down the seam allowance to flatten the seam. Pin match points first, but do not pin outside the seam allowance to avoid piercing holes in PU. Sew from points to point first. Then trim excess seam allowance for an easier sewing process. When sewing curves on PU, align all markings along the way. Top stitch down the seam allowances for a clean professional finish. Sew the center front line together and top stitch down the seam allowances. Attach the red neckline panel to the purple center from bodysuit. Use masking tape instead of pins to avoid poking holes. Sew from the center point first to ensure patches remain even. Top stitch the chest panel onto the marked area of the center front panel. Join the side front to the center front panel. Sewing curves is very tricky, so go as slow as possible. Top stitch down the seam allowances and check if the curves look smooth. Repeat the same steps on the other side. Trim extra threads after each seam before moving on to the next step. Carefully top stitch the red patches onto the marked area along curved seams. Make sure patches align correctly and follow the natural curve. Sew the side seams, then top stitch down the seam allowances. Attach the zipper taped to the seam allowances first for extra security. Use a zipper foot to stitch the zipper line for a cleaner finish. Make sure the zipper is hidden neatly when closed. Sew the shoulder seams, then top stitch down the seam allowances. Cut the crotch panel using an elastic fabric. Pin it to the center back bottom panels, then sew it up. Attach the crotch panel to the front crotch line. Test the stretch to ensure comfort, then set it aside for later. Cut out the white short panels using foam back fabric. Sew the side curve openings with the 1 cm seam allowance, then fold and top stitch down. Sew the side seams of the shorts. Pin the shorts to the bodysuit securely, then stitch them up. Top stitch down the seam allowances for a polished look. Attach a black jacket zipper at the hip line instead of a belt for convenience. Sew the zipper onto the back bottom panel first. Then attach it to the upper back panel. Make sure the zipper is well hidden under the belt. Close the edge of the leg openings and armholes. Ensure the finishing is smooth and even. Cut a belt wide enough to cover the hip zipper. Adjust the length based on the wearer's measurements. Sew and reinforce the belt, ensuring it fits snugly. Sew 1 cm with belt loops and set aside for later. Sew the belt onto the front and back borders. Pass it under the loops to secure it and conceal the zipper. Cut out legging panels using spandex fabric. Sew the inseam first. Then sew 1 cm curve opening. Use bias binding to finish the curve opening at attach the leggings to the white shorts. Completing the bodysuit. all fabric pieces according to the patterns. Trace all necessary markings onto the fabric. Cut out the black PU patches and top stitch them onto the marked area. Sew the bust studs for both pieces. Layer the front and back bodice panels together. Sew the hemline first. Flip the jacket right side out, then top stitch around the edges. Seam close the neckline and set aside for later. Cut the cuff patterns. Sew the side seams to form a cylinder. Seam close the opening of the cuff. Set aside for later assembly. Sew the side seams of the sleeves together. Pin the cuffs to the cuff line onto the sleeves. Stretch the cuff panel slightly if you need to fit the sleeve opening. Attach the sleeves to the armhole. Sew the neckband pieces together, then flip right side out and top stitch the seam. Sandwich the seams between the neckband and the jacket bodice. For the black, get parts of the white bodice before closing the neckband. Since the jacket has no visible attachment points, use strong flat-shaped magnets. Attach magnets inside both the bodysuit and the jacket. This allows the wearer to move freely while maintaining the illusion of a floating neckband jacket. Cut the patterns and trace markings onto the fabric. Cut out the red PU patches and paint the edges. After drying, top stitch the red patches onto the front boot panels. Set aside for later assembly. Sew the zipper onto the inseam of the leg warmer. Top stitch down the seam allowances. Repeat the same steps for the other side. Sew the center front line of the leg warmer. Sew the extension for the leg strap. Sew the over-the-knee panel above the leg warmer. Sew the center back seam. Sew the lining panels together, then attach them to the leg warmer at the marked area. Sew the hollow line first. Cut the angle seam open. Flip right side out, then top stitch down. Seam close the linings with the top stitch. Find a pair of shoes that matches the style and PU material. Use tape to mask off area that should not be painted. Start painting with Angelus leather paint. Apply thin layers and repeat multiple times for a smooth and even finish. And that's it. Lucy's costume is complete. The structured bodysuit, floating jacket, and matching boots create a sleek cyberpunk look true to the anime. I hope this tutorial helps you create your own version. If you use my digital sewing pattern, make sure to tag me on social media or share your progress in the comments. I would love to see your results. I'll be checking and featuring some of my favorites in my next video. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!